Time travel gone wrong. One mistake could destroy two civilizations. A desperate race against time begins. Subscribe now to uncover how it all unfolds. The hum of temporal machinery filled the pristine white chamber as Robert Clark adjusted his chronometer for what felt like the 100th time that day. The device, sleek and metallic, pulsed with a soft blue light that cast dancing shadows across the walls of their underground facility. Beside him, Elizabeth White meticulously catalogued their latest findings from the Roman Empire excursion, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface with practiced precision. Their work had always been about careful observation, about watching history unfold without interference, at least until 3 days ago, when everything changed. John Hart's voice crackled through the comm system, his usual calm demeanor replaced by something bordering on panic. "Robert, you need to see this," he called from the monitoring station, where streams of data flowed like waterfalls across multiple screens. The young technician's face was pale as he pointed to a particular sequence of temporal anomalies that shouldn't exist. They had been observing the standard fluctuations in the space-time continuum, minor ripples that typically corrected themselves naturally. But these new patterns were different. They spread like cracks in glass, extending far beyond their intended observation period in ancient Rome. Elizabeth joined them at the monitor, her eyes widening as she processed the information. "These waveforms, they're not just affecting Earth's timeline," she whispered, adjusting her glasses as if that might help her better comprehend the impossible data before them. "Look at the resonance frequencies they're aligning with." Her voice trailed off as realization dawned, and she turned to Robert with alarm. "They're aligning with Andromeda's temporal signature." The implications hit them simultaneously. For decades, humanity had known about the peaceful civilization in the Andromeda galaxy, their ambassadors having established contact centuries ago. The two species had maintained careful diplomatic relations, understanding the vast distances and cultural differences between them. But now, somehow, their temporal research was creating ripples that stretched across millions of light years, disturbing the delicate balance of events in another galaxy entirely. Robert felt a chill run down his spine as he considered what this meant. Every adjustment they made to Earth's past wasn't just rewriting human history anymore. It was potentially altering the course of an entire alien civilization. The situation escalated dramatically when Ambassador Cyrus arrived at their facility, his bioluminescent markings pulsating with agitation. The Andromedan diplomat, usually composed and measured in his interactions with humans, practically radiated distress as he materialized in their briefing room through the quantum communication portal. His presence alone indicated the gravity of the situation. Cyrus hadn't physically traveled to Earth since the initial diplomatic meetings 2 centuries prior. "Your temporal experiments have triggered a chain reaction," he began without preamble, his melodic voice carrying an edge of urgency that sent shivers through the research team. Through Cyrus's detailed explanation, they learned that their seemingly minor adjustments to Earth's timeline had created catastrophic consequences in Andromeda. In one particularly devastating instance, their attempt to prevent a minor skirmish during the Napoleonic Wars had inadvertently caused the collapse of an entire Andromedan dynasty. The ripple effect had manifested as a brutal civil war between rival factions, each believing themselves to be the legitimate heirs to power. Millions of lives had already been lost, and the conflict showed no signs of abating. The team gathered in their main conference room, the weight of responsibility pressing heavily upon them. Elizabeth's fingers trembled as she reviewed the historical records, noting how each well-intentioned alteration had spawned unintended disasters. "It's like we've been playing cosmic Jenga," she murmured, staring at the cascading effects displayed across multiple screens. "Every block we move creates instability somewhere else." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Their mission to preserve history had become the greatest threat to it. Robert paced the length of the room, his mind racing through possible solutions while John cross-referenced their data with Cyrus's reports. The complexity of their predicament became increasingly apparent. Even the most minute change in Earth's past, the timing of a single battle, the survival of a key historical figure, sent shockwaves through the interconnected web of galactic events. They had fundamentally misunderstood the nature of time itself, treating it as linear and isolated rather than the multidimensional tapestry it truly was. Cyrus watched them with an expression that combined frustration and reluctant understanding. "Your species is still so young," he said softly, his luminous eyes reflecting the soft glow of their monitors. "You thought you could master time without comprehending its true nature." The accusation stung, but it carried the ring of truth. They had been arrogant in their assumption that their actions would remain contained within Earth's sphere of influence. Now, faced with the devastating consequences of their ignorance, they understood too late the profound interconnectedness of all things. As dawn broke over the facility, painting the sterile white walls with warm golden light, the team convened in their primary research chamber. Robert stood at the head of their holographic display table, his hands resting heavily on its cool surface as he outlined their desperate plan. "We need to create a temporal buffer zone," he explained, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. "Something that can isolate our timeline manipulations from affecting Andromeda." Elizabeth nodded in agreement, already pulling up theoretical models on her interface, while John began recalibrating their temporal equipment with feverish intensity. Their first attempt proved more challenging than anticipated. As John initiated the buffer sequence, tendrils of temporal energy snaked through the air, forming intricate patterns that danced across the chamber walls. The team watched with bated breath as the system struggled to establish a stable boundary between the timelines. Suddenly, a surge of feedback coursed through the equipment, sending sparks flying and nearly overloading their systems. "The energy requirements are astronomical," John shouted over the cacophony, his fingers flying across controls as he fought to stabilize the process. Elizabeth rushed to assist, her mind racing through alternative approaches. "What if we anchor the buffer to specific historical nodes?" she suggested, highlighting key moments in Earth's timeline that seemed to resonate less violently with Andromedan events. Cyrus, who had been observing silently, stepped forward with unexpected insight. "In Andromeda, we use crystalline structures to modulate temporal fields," he offered, producing a small, glowing crystal from his diplomatic pouch. "Perhaps combining your technology with ours could achieve the necessary stability." The suggestion sparked a new line of experimentation. Working together, the team integrated the Andromedan crystal into their buffer system, creating a hybrid approach that drew on both species' technological strengths. The chamber filled with a harmonious hum as the modified system came online, the temporal energy now flowing in controlled waves rather than chaotic bursts. Yet even as they celebrated this partial success, they knew they were only scratching the surface of the problem. Each test revealed new complexities, new variables they hadn't accounted for in their initial calculations. As hours stretched into days, the toll of their relentless efforts became evident. Dark circles formed under their eyes, and cups of cold coffee accumulated on every available surface. Arguments erupted over methodology, only to be quickly resolved by their shared determination to rectify their mistake. They worked in shifts, taking brief naps in the facility's quarters before returning to the lab, driven by the knowledge that every moment wasted increased the likelihood of irreversible damage. Through it all, Cyrus remained a constant presence, his wisdom and experience proving invaluable in navigating the uncharted territory of cross-galactic temporal dynamics. The breakthrough came unexpectedly during what should have been a routine calibration test. As John fine-tuned the temporal frequency modulators, incorporating both human and Andromedan technologies, a peculiar pattern emerged in the data stream. Elizabeth, who had been reviewing historical records for potential anchor points, noticed an uncanny correlation between certain Earth events and periods of relative stability in Andromeda's timeline. "Wait," she exclaimed, her voice cutting through the hum of activity in the chamber. "These aren't random coincidences. There's a mathematical relationship here, a harmonic resonance between our timelines." Robert approached the display, his eyes narrowing as he studied the emerging pattern. "If we can map these resonances," he mused aloud, "we might be able to predict which historical interventions will cause the least disruption." Cyrus moved closer, his bioluminescent markings shifting in colors that suggested deep concentration. In Andromeda, we call this phenomenon temporal consonance, he revealed. It occurs when two distinct timelines naturally align in their progression, creating windows of opportunity for safe interaction. Working together, they developed a sophisticated algorithm that could identify these consonant periods. The discovery transformed their approach from reactive damage control to proactive prevention. Instead of merely trying to contain the effects of their temporal experiments, they could now target specific moments in history where their actions would harmonize with Andromeda's timeline rather than clash against it. The chamber buzzed with renewed energy as they implemented their new strategy, carefully selecting historical events that fell within these consonant windows. However, their progress revealed an unsettling truth about the nature of time itself. Rather than existing as separate, parallel streams, the timelines of Earth and Andromeda appeared to be fundamentally intertwined, like strands of DNA spiraling together through the fabric of reality. This realization forced them to confront the possibility that their previous understanding of temporal mechanics had been fundamentally flawed. Every action, no matter how carefully planned, created ripples that extended far beyond their immediate intentions. The complexity of managing these interconnections required constant vigilance and adaptation, transforming their research from a scientific endeavor into a delicate balancing act between two civilizations' fates. As the team prepared for their next crucial intervention, the atmosphere in the chamber grew tense with anticipation. They had chosen a pivotal moment in Earth's history, the signing of the Magna Carta, identified by their new algorithm as a prime example of temporal consonance. The event's significance in shaping modern democratic principles aligned perfectly with a period of political reform in Andromeda's timeline. Yet despite their careful calculations, the stakes felt higher than ever. Remember, Robert cautioned as they finalized their preparations, even the smallest deviation could have unforeseen consequences. The temporal displacement process initiated with its characteristic shimmer of energy, but this time, something felt different. The air crackled with an unusual intensity as Elizabeth monitored the synchronization between their timeline and Andromeda's. "The harmonic resonance is stronger than predicted," she reported, her eyes fixed on the fluctuating data streams. Suddenly, warning alarms blared throughout the chamber. On their monitors, a massive temporal distortion appeared, not localized to their immediate intervention point, but spreading rapidly across multiple historical epochs. John scrambled to adjust their equipment, sweat beading on his forehead as he fought to maintain control. "We're experiencing feedback loops," he shouted, his hands moving frantically across the controls. "The consonance window is collapsing." Cyrus moved to assist, his bioluminescent patterns flashing in rapid succession as he attempted to stabilize the connection using Andromedan techniques. The chamber filled with a deafening hum as temporal energies surged unpredictably, threatening to overwhelm their systems entirely. Through the chaos, Robert maintained his composure, directing their emergency response with military precision. "Elizabeth, focus on isolating the distortion source. John, reroute power to the containment field. Cyrus, can you reinforce the temporal anchors?" Their coordinated efforts gradually brought the situation under control, but not before significant damage had been done. When the crisis finally subsided, leaving behind scorched equipment and exhausted researchers, they discovered that their intervention had created a paradoxical loop spanning centuries. Events they had observed as settled history were now in flux, with multiple conflicting outcomes vying for dominance in the timeline. The failure weighed heavily on the team. They had followed their new protocol to the letter, yet somehow managed to make the situation worse. "We're missing something fundamental," Elizabeth admitted, slumped against her workstation. "Our understanding is still incomplete." Cyrus nodded in agreement, his normally vibrant markings dimmed with concern. "Perhaps we need to consider that time itself may be actively resisting our manipulations," he suggested. "What if these disturbances aren't just side effects, but conscious responses to our interference?" In the aftermath of their disastrous intervention, the team retreated to their analysis chamber, seeking answers in the mountains of data collected during the failed operation. Elizabeth led the review process, her methodical approach helping them piece together what had gone wrong. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a series of anomalous readings that preceded the temporal collapse. These patterns don't match any known natural phenomena. It's almost as if the timeline was anticipating our actions. The revelation sent a chill through the room, suggesting that their problems ran deeper than mere technical errors. John, whose expertise in temporal mechanics had always been rooted in hard science, found himself grappling with concepts that defied conventional understanding. If time is sentient in some way, he speculated, rubbing his temples as he processed the implications, then every manipulation we attempt could be triggering an immune response, like antibodies attacking a perceived threat. Robert listened intently, his military training kicking in as he began formulating strategies based on this new perspective. If that's true, we need to find a way to communicate with it, rather than fight against it. Their discussions took an unexpected turn when Cyrus revealed a closely guarded secret from Andromedan history. Long before our civilizations met, he confessed, our ancestors faced similar challenges. They spoke of something called the temporal nexus, a theoretical point where all timelines converge and where consciousness emerges from the flow of time itself. The concept seemed almost mystical compared to their scientific approach, yet it aligned with the patterns they were observing. Could this nexus be what's responding to our interventions? Elizabeth wondered aloud, her historian's mind racing with possibilities. The team's dynamic shifted as they embraced this revolutionary understanding. No longer did they view their work purely through the lens of physics or historical preservation. Instead, they began treating time as a living entity requiring dialogue rather than domination. Robert established new protocols emphasizing observation over action, while John reprogrammed their equipment to function more like listening devices than manipulation tools. Elizabeth delved into ancient texts from both human and Andromedan cultures, searching for references to temporal consciousness. Their collaboration deepened, each member bringing unique perspectives that helped them navigate this uncharted territory where science met philosophy and where the very nature of reality seemed to dance just beyond their grasp. The team's newfound understanding of temporal consciousness demanded a complete overhaul of their approach. Robert initiated a series of controlled experiments designed to establish communication rather than control. They began with simple patterns, rhythmic pulses of temporal energy that echoed through the timeline like gentle knocks on a door. At first, the responses were subtle, slight variations in historical weather patterns, minor shifts in recorded events that seemed to acknowledge their attempts at contact. These tentative exchanges gave way to more complex interactions as they refined their methods, developing a crude language of temporal signatures that allowed for basic information exchange. Elizabeth's research into ancient texts proved particularly valuable as she discovered references to similar attempts at temporal communication throughout human history. From the mysterious alignments of Stonehenge to the intricate calendar systems of the Maya, patterns emerged that suggested previous civilizations had also sensed the presence of temporal consciousness. Cyrus confirmed that Andromedan history held parallel accounts, including elaborate rituals designed to honor what their ancestors called the Time Weaver. Together, they synthesized these historical insights into their experimental framework, creating protocols that respected both species' traditions while advancing their scientific goals. The true breakthrough came when they successfully transmitted a complex sequence representing their desire for harmony. The response was immediate and unmistakable, a cascade of temporal energy that rearranged itself into patterns reminiscent of both human and Andromedan art forms. "It's acknowledging us," Elizabeth breathed, tears welling in her eyes as she witnessed the beautiful fusion of their cultures reflected in the temporal display. The patterns evolved further, forming representations of historical events from both civilizations, demonstrating an awareness that transcended simple acknowledgement. As their communication improved, they began exchanging more detailed information. Through carefully constructed temporal sequences, they explained their original mistake and expressed their sincere desire to repair the damage. The timeline's response was both humbling and encouraging. It presented them with a comprehensive map of affected events, highlighting critical junctures where their intervention had caused the most significant disruptions. More importantly, it provided suggestions for corrective actions, indicating points in history where minimal effort could yield maximum restoration. This collaborative exchange marked a turning point in their mission, transforming their role from reckless experimenters to responsible stewards of temporal integrity. Armed with their newfound ability to communicate with temporal consciousness, the team embarked on their most ambitious project yet, mapping the precise connections between their timeline and Andromeda's. Using their hybrid technology, they created an intricate network of temporal sensors that spanned both galaxies. The resulting visualization was breathtaking in its complexity, revealing countless threads of causality that wove together human and Andromedan histories in ways they had never imagined. "This changes everything," Robert murmured, studying the glittering web of connections that filled the chamber's holographic display. Elizabeth's analysis revealed startling patterns of mutual influence that predated their temporal experiments. "Look at these correlations," she explained, highlighting clusters of events that demonstrated synchronized development across species. When humans experienced the Renaissance, Andromeda underwent a similar period of cultural enlightenment. The Industrial Revolution here corresponded with their technological awakening. The implications were profound. Their civilizations had been subtly influencing each other's development for millennia, guided perhaps by the very temporal consciousness they now communicated with. John's technical expertise proved invaluable in translating these insights into practical applications. He developed algorithms that could predict how specific actions in one timeline would affect the other, creating a sophisticated simulation system that allowed them to test potential interventions before implementing them. The simulations revealed fascinating possibilities for future cooperation, areas where their combined efforts could accelerate progress in both societies without risking temporal instability. "We could share medical advances," he suggested, pointing to a cluster of convergent developments in healthcare technology, "or collaborate on environmental conservation techniques that benefit both worlds." Cyrus watched these revelations unfold with growing excitement, his bioluminescent patterns shifting in colors that reflected hope and possibility. "Our peoples have been destined to work together," he declared, guided by forces beyond our understanding toward this moment of unity. The team recognized that their mission had evolved from damage control to pioneering a new era of intergalactic cooperation. They began documenting their findings in a comprehensive treaty proposal, outlining frameworks for safe temporal research and mutually beneficial cultural exchange programs. The document represented more than just a solution to their current crisis. It laid the foundation for a partnership that could redefine the relationship between their species for generations to come. With their understanding of temporal dynamics deepening, the team focused their attention on addressing the immediate crisis in Andromeda. The civil war raging across multiple star systems demanded careful intervention, and they approached the task with unprecedented caution. Using their newly developed predictive models, they identified a series of strategic moments in Earth's history that, when adjusted minimally, could create stabilizing effects in Andromeda's timeline. "We'll start with the Treaty of Westphalia," Robert decided, pointing to the historical node that showed the strongest potential for positive impact. Its establishment of sovereign states mirrors the political structure that could help resolve Andromeda's succession crisis. The implementation process required exquisite precision. Elizabeth served as their historical guide, ensuring that their adjustments maintained the essential elements of each event while introducing subtle changes that would ripple outward in beneficial ways. John operated the temporal equipment with surgical accuracy, his hands steady despite the enormous responsibility resting on his shoulders. Cyrus provided real-time feedback through their established communication channels with Andromedan authorities, helping them fine-tune their approach based on immediate reactions from the affected timeline. Their first successful intervention proved transformative. By slightly altering the terms of the Treaty of Westphalia, they introduced concepts of diplomatic resolution and power sharing that resonated deeply with the warring factions in Andromeda. The temporal consciousness responded positively, amplifying the effects of their carefully crafted changes. Within weeks, they observed a significant reduction in hostilities as rival groups began adopting similar frameworks for negotiation. Emboldened by this success, they moved to their next target, the American Constitutional Convention, introducing elements of checks and balances that translated seamlessly into Andromedan political structures. Each intervention built upon the last, creating a cascade of positive change that rippled through both timelines. The team worked tirelessly, often going days without sleep as they navigated the complex web of historical connections. Their chamber became a nexus of activity, filled with overlapping holographic displays showing real-time updates from both Earth and Andromeda. The stress was palpable, but so was the sense of purpose that drove them forward. They had transformed from accidental disruptors into architects of peace, their every action guided by the growing harmony between their civilizations and the approving resonance of temporal consciousness itself. As weeks turned into months, the team's efforts bore fruit in ways that exceeded their wildest expectations. The civil war in Andromeda gradually transformed into a series of productive negotiations, facilitated by the new political frameworks inspired by Earth's historical developments. Representatives from warring factions began meeting regularly, their discussions informed by the principles of governance and diplomacy that had proven successful in human history. Cyrus reported that these talks were progressing faster than anticipated, with many former adversaries finding common ground in shared values that transcended their species' differences. On Earth, the impact of their work became increasingly visible. Historical records began showing subtle but significant changes, instances of international cooperation that hadn't existed before, technological advancements that appeared earlier than expected, and cultural exchanges that enriched both human and Andromedan societies. Elizabeth documented these transformations with meticulous care, noting how each successful intervention created a feedback loop of positive development. "It's like we've opened channels of mutual growth," she observed during one of their regular progress reviews. "The benefits are compounding exponentially." The temporal consciousness responded to their success with increasingly complex patterns of approval, sometimes manifesting as beautiful displays of energy that filled their chamber with multicolored light. These visual confirmations served as both encouragement and guidance, pointing them toward new opportunities for improvement. Robert established a rotating schedule of interventions, ensuring they maintained momentum while allowing time for careful observation of each change's effects. Their approach had evolved into a sophisticated dance of historical refinement, where every step was measured and purposeful. Perhaps most significantly, the team's work had fostered an unprecedented level of trust between humans and Andromedans. Regular communication channels expanded beyond emergency situations to include cultural exchanges, scientific collaborations, and even joint artistic projects. The barriers that had once separated their species began to dissolve, replaced by a growing recognition of their shared destiny. Cyrus often expressed his people's gratitude, noting how their alliance had accelerated Andromeda's recovery from the Civil War while opening new avenues of development for both civilizations. The crisis that had once threatened to destroy their relationship had instead become the catalyst for an extraordinary partnership. Despite their remarkable progress, the team couldn't shake the feeling that they were being tested. The temporal consciousness continued to present them with increasingly complex challenges, as if gauging their capacity for responsible stewardship. During one particularly intense session, they encountered a series of nested paradoxes spanning multiple centuries and involving both Earth and Andromeda. "It's like a puzzle designed to push our limits," John muttered, his fingers flying across controls as he tried to untangle the intricate web of causal relationships. The challenge forced them to develop new tools and techniques, pushing the boundaries of their understanding and capabilities. Their resilience was put to the ultimate test when a sudden temporal storm threatened to undo much of their hard-won progress. The disturbance originated from an unexpected source, a previously unknown civilization in the Triangulum galaxy, whose own experiments with time had intersected with their work. The revelation shook them to their core, forcing them to expand their scope beyond just Earth and Andromeda. "We're part of something much larger than we realized," Elizabeth acknowledged, poring over the new data that suggested a vast network of interconnected timelines across the universe. The scale of their responsibilities suddenly seemed overwhelming. Yet the team rose to the occasion with unwavering determination. Robert coordinated their response with military precision, establishing protocols for managing multiple temporal interfaces simultaneously. John and Cyrus worked around the clock to upgrade their equipment, integrating Triangulum's unique temporal signature into their existing systems. Elizabeth devoted herself to understanding the new civilization's historical context, drawing parallels between their experiences and those of Earth and Andromeda. Their chamber became a hub of intense activity, with representatives from all three species collaborating to restore stability to their shared temporal environment. Through these trials, their bond strengthened immeasurably. The pressure forged a unity that transcended species and culture, creating a team that functioned as a single organism dedicated to preserving the integrity of time itself. They learned to anticipate each other's needs, to support one another through moments of doubt, and to celebrate small victories with genuine joy. The challenges they faced together transformed them from colleagues into family, united by a shared purpose that eclipsed individual ambitions or fears. Their perseverance in the face of mounting difficulties demonstrated that they were ready to shoulder the immense responsibility of temporal guardianship. The final phase of their mission demanded the most delicate touch yet. Having successfully stabilized both Earth's and Andromeda's timelines, they turned their attention to healing the lingering scars of conflict and mistrust. The team developed a comprehensive restoration protocol that combined historical corrections with cultural reconciliation initiatives. Robert oversaw the implementation of a series of carefully orchestrated interventions targeting key moments of misunderstanding between their species. These ranged from subtle adjustments to first contact narratives to more substantial revisions of trade agreements that had once favored one party over the other. Elizabeth spearheaded a groundbreaking project to create shared historical archives, accessible to both civilizations through a specially designed temporal interface. These documents will serve as a testament to what we've learned, she explained during one of their planning sessions. Future generations will understand the importance of respecting temporal integrity and the value of our intergalactic partnership. The archives included not just records of their successes, but also honest accounts of their mistakes and the lessons drawn from them, ensuring that neither species would repeat the errors of the past. John and Cyrus collaborated on developing new safety protocols for temporal research, establishing universal standards that could be adopted by civilizations across the galaxy. Their guidelines emphasized minimal intervention, thorough risk assessment, and mandatory consultation with temporal consciousness before undertaking any historical modification. They also created an early warning system that could detect potential temporal disruptions, allowing for swift response to emerging threats. The system's effectiveness was immediately proven when it flagged a developing anomaly in the Triangulum galaxy, enabling the team to address the issue before it escalated into another crisis. Perhaps most significantly, they institutionalized their partnership through the creation of the Temporal Integrity Council, a governing body comprising representatives from Earth, Andromeda, and Triangulum. The Council's mandate included overseeing all temporal research activities, mediating disputes arising from historical interpretations, and facilitating ongoing cultural exchange programs. Its establishment marked a new era of intergalactic cooperation, with their facility serving as its headquarters. The transformation of their once secretive research outpost into a beacon of unity symbolized the profound change their work had wrought, from isolated civilizations experimenting with dangerous technology to a cooperative network dedicated to preserving the harmony of time itself. As their mission neared completion, the team gathered in their main chamber for a rare moment of reflection. The room, once dominated by the sterile efficiency of their equipment, now bore the marks of their journey. Holographic displays showing smiling faces from both species, artworks created through their cultural exchange programs, and documentation of their shared achievements. Robert stood before the group, his expression softer than it had been during their initial crisis meetings. "We set out to fix a mistake," he began, "but we've accomplished something far greater. We've built a bridge between our worlds that extends beyond mere survival." Elizabeth nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Think about where we started," she said, gesturing to the timeline visualizations that now showed smooth, stable flows instead of chaotic disruptions. "We were scientists playing with forces we didn't fully understand, making decisions based on limited knowledge. Now look at us, working together with temporal consciousness, guiding the evolution of not one, but 3 civilizations." She paused, looking around at her colleagues. We've rewritten the rules of what's possible when different species commit to understanding each other. John, who had spent countless hours perfecting their hybrid technology, added his thoughts. Our greatest achievement isn't the equipment or the protocols, he stated, tapping the interface that had become second nature to him. It's the trust we've built. We've shown that cooperation isn't about sacrificing individual identity, it's about finding strength in our differences. Cyrus, standing beside him, extended a glowing hand in agreement. For my people, this partnership has meant more than ending our civil war. It's given us a new perspective on our place in the universe, one that acknowledges our connection to others rather than our isolation. The personal transformations within the team were equally profound. Robert had evolved from a rigid military leader into a visionary capable of embracing uncertainty and flexibility. Elizabeth's historical expertise had expanded beyond Earth's borders to encompass a truly galactic perspective. John's technical skills had matured into a nuanced understanding of how technology could serve diplomacy as much as science. Even Cyrus had changed, his diplomatic role evolving into something more akin to cultural ambassadorship. Together, they embodied the very principles they had worked to establish: unity without uniformity, strength through diversity, and progress born from mutual respect. Looking to the future, the team recognized that their work was far from finished. The establishment of the Temporal Integrity Council marked the beginning of a new chapter rather than the conclusion of their mission. Robert proposed the creation of specialized training programs to prepare representatives from various civilizations for temporal research and diplomatic roles. We need to ensure that our knowledge and experience are passed on systematically, he explained during one of their strategic planning sessions. This isn't just about maintaining what we've built, it's about expanding our reach responsibly. Elizabeth took charge of developing an educational curriculum that combined historical study with practical temporal mechanics and diplomatic training. She envisioned a program that would produce graduates capable of navigating the complex intersection of science, culture, and politics inherent in their work. Imagine teams of researchers who understand not just how to manipulate time, but why it matters, she mused, sketching out course outlines that integrated lessons from their recent experiences. They'll need to learn from our mistakes as much as our successes. John focused on advancing their technological capabilities, proposing the development of portable temporal communication devices that could facilitate real-time collaboration across vast distances. If we can miniaturize our equipment while maintaining its precision, he suggested, we could establish research outposts throughout both galaxies, creating a network of temporal monitoring stations. Cyrus supported this initiative, offering insights into Andromedan manufacturing techniques that could enhance the project's feasibility. Together, they began designing prototypes that incorporated advances from all three participating species. Perhaps most ambitiously, they began exploring the possibility of formal treaties with other civilizations suspected of temporal research capabilities. The Triangulum incident had demonstrated that their network needed to be proactive rather than reactive in establishing relationships. They drafted preliminary agreements that emphasized transparency, mutual protection, and shared responsibility for maintaining temporal integrity. These documents represented a significant evolution in intergalactic diplomacy, establishing precedents for cooperation that extended beyond traditional political or economic considerations to encompass the very fabric of reality itself. The legacy of their mission extended far beyond the immediate resolution of crises or the establishment of new institutions. They had fundamentally altered the trajectory of intergalactic relations, proving that cooperation across species barriers was not only possible but essential for the survival and prosperity of all involved. The Temporal Integrity Council stood as a testament to their vision, its chambers filled with representatives from increasingly diverse backgrounds, each contributing unique perspectives to the ongoing work of preserving temporal harmony. The hybrid technology they had developed became the standard for temporal research across known space, its design principles inspiring innovations in other fields of intergalactic collaboration. Their impact on human and Andromedan societies was equally profound. On Earth, history books were rewritten to include the story of their partnership, teaching future generations about the power of unity and the dangers of technological arrogance. Andromeda experienced a cultural renaissance fueled by the influx of human ideas and the resolution of long-standing conflicts. Both civilizations flourished under the new paradigm of mutual support and shared responsibility, their economies, arts, and sciences benefiting from the cross-pollination of concepts and approaches. The ripple effects of their work touched every aspect of galactic society, from education systems to entertainment media, fostering a spirit of curiosity and cooperation that transcended traditional boundaries. As the original team members prepared to pass the torch to the next generation of temporal researchers and diplomats, they did so with the knowledge that their contribution had secured a brighter future for countless beings across multiple galaxies. Their names would be remembered not just as pioneers of temporal science, but as architects of a new era of intergalactic understanding. The crisis that had once threatened to destroy everything they held dear had instead become the foundation for something extraordinary, a testament to the power of perseverance, collaboration, and the courage to embrace new ways of thinking. Remember to subscribe for more thrilling adventures through time and space.